The officer thought this would be an easy stop. Just another quiet driver, another routine moment on a lawn shift. He didn't know that within minutes, everything he said and did would come back to him in a way he never expected. And what appeared next wasn't loud, wasn't angry, and didn't argue at all. But it completely changed the outcome of this encounter. It was late afternoon when the patrol car lights flashed behind a dark sedan. The driver pulled over smoothly, no hesitation, no sudden moves. From the outside, this looked like the calmest traffic stop you could imagine. Inside the car, the driver took a slow breath, placed both hands clearly on the steering wheel, and waited. He had done this before. He knew the routine. Stay calm. Be respectful. Say as little as possible. The officer walked up with a smirk on his face. His tone wasn't aggressive, but it wasn't professional either. He leaned slightly toward the window and said, "You know why I pulled you over, right?" The driver politely replied, "No, sir, I don't." That answer seemed to annoy the officer. He chuckled and said, "Of course you don't. They never do." From the very first words, the officer treated the situation like a joke. He mocked the driver's calm voice, repeating his words in a sarcastic tone. "Yes, sir, no, sir," he said, laughing to himself. The driver stayed quiet. He kept eye contact respectful, his posture relaxed. Anyone watching would think he was doing everything right. And he was. The officer asked for license and registration. The driver calmly explained where they were and slowly reached for them. As he handed them over, the officer glanced at the name and paused for a second longer than necessary. His expression changed, just slightly. Then he smiled again, but this time it didn't feel friendly. Before we go any further, if you're enjoying stories like this that reveal the truth behind everyday moments, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. Here on The Black Stories, we share powerful real-life encounters that make you think, reflect, and sometimes see the world differently. Your support helps these stories reach more people. The officer stepped back to his car, but instead of running the information right away, he stood there talking into his body cam. He joked about how calm the driver was acting, implying it was suspicious. He said, "They always act calm when they're hiding something." The driver could hear some of this through the open window, but he said nothing. When the officer returned, his attitude grew sharper. He asked random questions, unrelated to the stop. "Where are you coming from? Where are you going? Why are you in such a hurry?" The driver answered briefly and politely every time. No attitude, no resistance. Just calm. That seemed to frustrate the officer even more. He leaned closer and said, "You know, being this calm doesn't make you look innocent. It was meant to provoke a reaction." But the reaction never came. Instead, the driver said something simple. He said, "Officer, I respect your job. I'm just trying to get home safely." That should have ended it. But it didn't. The officer laughed and said, "You people always say that." The words hung in the air. The driver's eyes didn't change, but something inside him tightened. He knew exactly what that sentence meant. Still, he stayed calm. Then the officer made his mistake. He told the driver to step out of the vehicle, claiming he seemed nervous. Anyone watching the footage later would clearly see that the driver was the opposite of nervous. He was calm, steady, and cooperative. But the officer had already decided the story he wanted to tell. As the driver stepped out, he quietly said, "Officer, just so you know, this interaction is being recorded." The officer laughed again. "Good," he said. "So is mine." What the officer didn't know was that the driver wasn't just recording on his phone. Weeks earlier, the driver had installed a small dash camera after a friend warned him. One day, that calm voice might not be enough. The camera recorded video and audio inside and outside the car. It had already captured everything: the mocking tone, the jokes, the unnecessary comments, and the exact moment the officer's professionalism slipped. Back on the roadside, the officer searched the car and found nothing. No violations, no reason to escalate. His tone shifted again, now slightly defensive. He handed back the documents and said, "Next time, don't act so suspicious." The driver nodded, got back into his car, and drove away. Most people would have let it go right there. But the driver didn't. That night, he reviewed the footage. Watching it back was painful, but also clear. This wasn't about a traffic stop. This was about attitude, assumptions, and power. The next morning, he filed a formal complaint and submitted the full, unedited video. What happened next is what no one expected. The department reviewed the footage. Not just the body cam, but the dash cam too. Side by side, the truth was undeniable. The officer's mocking words, his biased comments, and the lack of legal reason for escalation were all there. Clear. Undeniable. The officer was called in for questioning. At first, he claimed the driver was uncooperative. Then he said the situation felt tense. But the video told a different story. Calm voice versus mocking tone. Respect versus ridicule. Within weeks, the officer was suspended pending investigation. When the story quietly reached the community, people were shocked, not because it happened, but because for once, there was proof. Solid evidence. No editing, no shouting, just facts. The driver never raised his voice. He never argued. He let the truth speak for him. This is why stories like this matter. Not because they are dramatic, but because they are real. Here on the Black Stories, we share moments like this to remind people that dignity, preparation, and patience can still make a difference, even when the odds feel unfair. The officer eventually resigned. No press conference, no apology, just gone. The department issued a statement about reviewing training procedures. It wasn't justice in the way movies show it, but it was accountability. And it all started with a calm driver who refused to be provoked. If this story made you think, drop a comment below and tell us your thoughts. Have you ever experienced something like this, or witnessed a moment where staying calm changed everything? Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. The more people see these stories, the harder they are to ignore. Make sure you're subscribed to the Black Stories for more real encounters that reveal truth, resilience, and the quiet strength people carry every day. Sometimes the loudest response is evidence.